Shocking. Elderly woman's heartfelt plea reveals amazing truth. Millionaire's life-changing decision on the line. Mabel Donovan stood before the crowd, her frail hands gripping the microphone as if it were a lifeline. At 82, she was the embodiment of Maplewood's spirit, its history echoing in every creak of her beloved family home. The chatter in the community meeting hall simmered, the air thick with anticipation as fierce debates erupted around her. Mabel's heart raced. She could feel the urgency coursing through her veins. "This house," she began, her voice tremulous yet resolute, "is where my children learned to ride their bikes, where my grandchildren laughed until they cried during summer holidays." Mabel's gentle eyes glistened with nostalgia. Memories flooded back, the aroma of her mother's homemade pie filling the kitchen, the joyful chaos of holiday dinners. Maplewood was not just a town. It was home, a sanctuary forged by love. As she recounted her family's legacy, those sitting in the room shifted in their seats. Her late husband's unyielding determination to keep a roof over their heads during tough times resonated with many, stirring emotions long buried. "My parents sacrificed everything to buy this house," Mabel continued, her voice gaining strength. "And now these luxury apartments threaten to erase the very essence of our community." In the back of the room, Jackson Reed fidgeted, his heart heavy. He was a self-made millionaire, but wealth had come with a price. Growing up in a struggling neighborhood, he understood Mabel's struggles all too well. He'd once played in streets filled with laughter just like hers, yet now he was caught in a storm of conflicting emotions. The man who dreamed of building new apartments was overriding the town's heart, yet the thought of erasing Mabel's cherished memories gnawed at him. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." "Now let's continue," he watched Mabel, speechless, energy pulsating around her. The crowd was tethered to her words. They were not just fighting for an old house. They were fighting to preserve their childhood, the laughter, the essence of family. Mabel's poignant question hung in the air like a plea. What is a home if we can't share it with those we love? The weight of her words pulled at Jackson's heartstrings, and he felt the urge to rise, to defend Mabel's cherished memories against the onslaught of progress. Silence enveloped the hall. An electric tension hung in the air as all eyes turned to him, waiting. Jackson found himself at a crossroads, his breath caught in his chest. He could feel his connection to this community, the stirring deep within that he had once lost. Would he allow the heart of Maplewood to be ripped away? Or could he help to create a future that honored its past? As the weight of the moment crashed down, Mabel's face lit with unwavering determination, embodying a resilient spirit that begged him to choose wisely. The crowd leaned in closer, holding their collective breath. As Jackson teetered on the brink of a life-altering decision, his answer could very well shape the future of Maplewood itself. Jackson's heart galloped as he surveyed the faces in the room. Each pair of eyes reflected hope and expectation. He had built his fortune in steel and concrete, but standing there, he felt as delicate as Mabel's frail form. She was a living testament to the community he now stood to dismantle. The laughter and joy in her stories resonate like music, echoing through the silent chamber. "Please, Mr. Reed." A voice broke through the thick silence. It was Sarah, a local teacher, her voice breaking with passion. "You know what this house means to all of us. We've lost too much already. Don't let us lose this too." The murmurs grew louder as others nodded in agreement, encouragement swelling in every corner of the room. Jackson's instinct was to defend his vision, to explain how his new project could provide jobs and modern housing for struggling families. But as he opened his mouth to speak, the words died on his lips. "Remember when we played tag in the yard?" Mabel continued, her voice quivering yet unyielding. "Remember how we came together every holiday, every milestone? The memories we built in this house are more important than bricks and mortar. If we lose this, we lose who we are." Each word lanced through Jackson, igniting a flicker of regret deep within him. He thought about the luxury apartments. Yes, they would bring money, and in time revitalization to a town teetering on the edge of decline. But at what cost? What good were fancy structures if they erased the stories of those who had lived, fought, and loved in the shadow of their foundation? With renewed fervor he stepped forward. His voice broke over the crowd's whispering. "Mabel," he started, but then hesitated, searching for the right words. "I understand your pain. I really do. I grew up in places like this one." The crowd hung on every syllable. He took a breath, feeling both heavy and light, a weight lifting as he shared his own childhood stories. The laughter, the unity, I felt that too. But I always believed the only way to build a brighter future for my kids was to create spaces where they could thrive. I see now. I thought it had to be one or the other. Mabel's eyes softened, yet the concern still lingered. But it doesn't have to be. You can merge the past and the future. Keep this alive. Make sure Maplewood is known for its heart, not just its growth. The truth of her words hit Jackson like a sudden gust of wind. He had been a man focused solely on the vision of progress, blinded by the light of profit that glittered far away. But at this moment, surrounded by the warmth of community, he realized he had a choice. A choice that could redefine him. His future didn't have to mean sacrificing tradition. Feeling an unfamiliar warmth of hope swelling in his chest, he spoke again. "What if I propose a solution? A way to keep this house and still build our community?" The room fell silent, curiosity cracking the tension. Mabel's brow furrowed, intrigued. She leaned in, her heart racing. "What do you have in mind?" "That's the thing," he declared, no longer teetering but standing tall with resolve. "Let us work together. We can create something that honors the past and embraces the future." He met Mabel's gaze, her eyes shimmering with cautious hope, a flicker of belief igniting in the air. As the community buzzed with possibilities, Jackson wondered if the door to a different kind of future had just swung open. Could they really merge time, tradition, and innovation? The moment was electric, the stakes higher than ever. But with every heartbeat echoing in the packed room, a question lingered in the air. Would the community's wounds heal in time to build something even more beautiful than before? The buzz of conversation rippled through the room, a mix of disbelief and curiosity. Faces turned towards Jackson, anticipation shimmering in the air like static electricity before a storm. He felt the weight of their expectations, their stories, their dreams pressing against him. It wasn't just about bricks and mortar anymore. It was about lives entwined in the fabric of this house. Mabel's eyes searched his, a fierce yearning dancing within them. "You really mean that? You're willing to help us?" Her voice was barely above a whisper, yet it pierced through the thrumming uncertainty swirling in Jackson's heart. "Yes," he replied, his voice stronger now. "I want to blend the new with the old. Let us preserve this house and create homes around it that family can thrive in. I see it now, a community, not just a project." A spark ignited in the crowd, exchanging glances of hope. Jackson could feel their collective heartbeat, a rhythm of optimism swelling like an anthem. Sarah stepped forward, tears welling in her eyes. "Could we really do this? Could we preserve the history while building for the future?" "We can," Jackson affirmed, enthusiasm washing over him. The idea was blossoming, morphing into a vision brighter than any skyscraper he ever imagined. "We'll have meetings, involve everyone. I want your voices, your needs to shape this new project." Cheering broke out, echoing like laughter from a distant childhood. The walls that once felt imposing now vibrated with energy and possibility. Jackson's heart surged with a feeling he hadn't felt in so long, something close to belonging. Yet, as the chatter grew louder, a familiar anxiety settled in the pit of his stomach. The reality of what he was proposing began to loom like shadows stretched across a bright horizon. What if it wouldn't work? What if the community never trusted him? Could he be the bridge that mended their wounds, or would the weight of the past drag the vision down before it had a chance to rise? Taking a deep breath, he moved towards the center of the room, where sunlight poured in through the dusty windows, illuminating faces filled with renewed determination. "But I'll need your support, your trust. This won't happen overnight. It's going to take work, compromise, and most importantly, hope." He watched as old friends nodded in agreement, remembering shared memories that made them a community. If they combined their stories and aspirations, they could sculpt something unique, something that blended history with a promising future. Mabel raised her hand, a gentle smile playing on her lips. "We're with you. Just tell us how we can help." He grinned, the tension unraveling from his shoulders. The road ahead might be challenging, but for the first time, a flicker of real excitement pulsated through him. Let us organize a community event. Invite everyone to brainstorm ideas. This house can be the heart of Maplewood. Cheers erupted again, a symphony of voices that filled the room. Jackson couldn't help but smile as a sense of purpose washed over him. They wouldn't be navigating this alone. They would do it together. But as the crowd began to disperse, an unsettling feeling tugged at his heart. Was he ready to expose himself, to be vulnerable when the stakes were so high? Could he really keep his promise? Or was this just another fleeting moment of hope destined to break? In the dawning light of a new journey, Jackson felt a swell of determination moving through him. He knew he was on the brink of something significant, something that could change lives and heal a community. We're starting something beautiful, he thought, looking out at the buzz and excitement. But a whisper intruded, creeping into his thoughts. What if it all falls apart? That question hung heavy in the air as he stepped outside, the crowd dispersing. Would he be able to uphold the dream he had just ignited? As he watched the sun dip below the horizon, unease danced alongside hope in his chest. And deep down, he realized he would finally have to confront the truth of his past to embrace the future. Would he rise to the challenge or find himself once again trapped in the chains of his own making? The moment Jackson stepped outside, the cool evening air wrapped around him like a comforting blanket. He exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of his decision settle on his shoulders. The sun was sinking fast, splashing warm oranges and pinks across the sky, a dazzling display that contrasted sharply with the storm brewing in his mind. What if it all falls apart? Echoed like a refrain, relentless in its pursuit. He ran a hand through his hair, a familiar gesture of frustration. The faces of the crowd, hopeful, eager, foreshadowed the reality of what lay ahead. He needed their trust, their belief, and more importantly, he needed to believe in himself. Mabel's voice broke through the chaos in his mind. Just tell us how we can help. It was a simple request, but that sense of community she represented stirred something deep within him. As he took a step back to look at the house, the very heart of Maplewood, he couldn't help but feel its presence. It wasn't just a building. It was history, memories, and dreams, all interwoven like the fabric of this town. Determined, he picked up his phone. There had to be a way to maintain the momentum, to turn their excitement into something tangible. He started texting the few contacts he still had in town, organizing an event that felt bigger than himself. Community brainstorm meeting next week. He tapped out. Everyone's voice matters. Spread the word. After hitting send, a flicker of anticipation ignited within him. No more drifting through life. He was planting seeds for a new beginning. The very thought made his heart quicken, but doubt loomed like dark clouds threatening to overshadow his resolve. What if no one showed up? What if they came just to confirm their suspicions about him? Chilled by the thought, he looked down the quiet street, the houses lining the road like old friends waiting for a reunion that had long been overdue. That evening he paced around the back porch, contemplating how to bridge the gap between the old and the new, between him and the community he once left behind. His mind raced, piecing together a plan that felt both ambitious and daunting. He wanted to honor the history of the house, the stories it housed, while creating spaces that embraced the hopeful future of Maplewood. As the stars began to sprinkle the sky, a shadow caught his eye. It was Sarah, lingering at the edge of the yard. He hadn't noticed her return, but the depth of her expression tugged at him. "Hey," Jackson called, surprised but glad for the company. "Hey," she replied softly, stepping closer. "I just wanted to thank you for what you said earlier. It means a lot." He shrugged, trying to dismiss the compliment, but warmth spread through him. "It's just what I feel we should do. This place means something." "Exactly," she said, her voice gaining strength. "It's hard to believe someone with your background cares enough to help." We've been let down before. Her honesty struck him hard. How could he ever hope to rebuild trust if the shadows of his past continued to haunt him? "I know I've made mistakes," he admitted, a hint of vulnerability lacing his words. "But I want to show you all that I can be more than my past. I can do better." "I hope you can," she replied with a hint of optimism, though her gaze wavered. "Because if anyone can unite us, it's you." That small ray of hope sparked something inside him. Perhaps he didn't have to carry the weight alone. Sure, the road ahead was uncertain, but the strength of community had never felt more palpable. They would rise or fall together, and he was determined to pave a path worth walking. As she turned to take her leave, Jackson called after her. "Will you help me plan that meeting?" She nodded, a smile breaking across her face, illuminating the shadows clinging to both of them. "Of course. We can do this together." But even as thoughts of unity swirled around him, another voice crept into his mind, an unsettling echo of doubt. What if the confrontation he feared would come to pass? What if facing his past meant losing everything he was striving for? With those questions lingering in the night air, he couldn't shake the realization that he was about to embark on a journey that would change the very fabric of not just the house, but the heart of the community. Would he find redemption or succumb to the weight of unhealed wounds? And deep down, he felt the storm build once again, knowing this was merely the beginning. The week flew by, each day blending into the next with heavy anticipation. Jackson found himself lost in thoughts of the upcoming meeting, replaying conversations and envisioning the faces of his friends and neighbors. There was a long list of names to contact, and with each text sent, a thrill of hope coursed through him. Was it possible to rekindle the spirit of Maplewood? The night before the community brainstorm meeting, he lay awake in bed, scrolling through notifications on his phone. Several replies, mixed with encouragement and hesitance, for him to continue. A knot formed in his stomach as he wrestled with insecurities. What if he was setting himself up for embarrassment? By morning, that uneasiness transported itself into a flurry of activity. He gathered stacks of paper, markers, and the remnants of supplies left from when his family had run the local art shop. Moments of crafting posters with phrases like "Together we rise" and "Every voice counts" filled him with an infectious excitement. For the first time in years, he felt invested. As he approached the community center, heart pounding, he could already see a handful of familiar faces, Sarah among them, waving from the front steps. A mix of emotions flashed across her face, but the reassurance in her smile anchored him. "Hey," she greeted, her voice warm and encouraging. "You ready for this?" "Not even close," he chuckled, unsettled by the butterflies in his stomach. "But I think the nerves are a good sign." They entered the hall together, and he froze for a moment, awed by the room's transformation. Tables were set up in a circle, and bright banners adorned the walls, creating a space alive with possibility. The scattered chairs soon filled with townsfolk, each person bringing a bit of history, a thread of Maplewood woven directly into the fabric of his life. "Thank you all for coming tonight." Jackson maneuvered around the room, his voice cracking with emotion as he began to speak. "I know I'm not perfect. I've stumbled a lot, and I understand if there are reservations. But I want to hear your ideas. I want to bring us all together." He paused, gauging their reactions, searching for threads of understanding amid uncertain expressions. It didn't take long. Mabel raised her hand gently. "Jackson, we've supported each other when times were tough, and I still believe we can do it again. Can we trust you? Can you truly help us rebuild?" Her words swept over the room like a cautious breeze, challenging Jackson with the memories of the past. He inhaled sharply but steadied himself. "Yes," he proclaimed, determination flowing through every word. "That's what I'm here for. Let us address those challenges together. I can't do it alone. Not anymore." As the conversations began to flow, ideas sparked like summer fireflies in the darkness. There were suggestions for community gardens, resource exchanges, fundraisers, and even social nights to foster connection. Jackson leaned in, his heart swelling as hope began to heal the scars of doubt. But then, just as energy reached a collective high, someone at the back of the room rose. Jackson recognized her instantly, Mrs. Patterson, the elderly woman who had been a steadfast presence throughout his childhood. "Jackson," she said, her voice frail yet resolute, "what you're proposing is beautiful. But you need to understand there are deep-seated wounds in this town." Her words pulled everyone's attention. The room fell silent, each person back in that moment of shared history. Weighted silence hung in the air as she continued to speak, bringing up memories of heartbreak and betrayal, the long shadows cast by broken trust. Jackson felt the heat in his cheeks rise, and for a moment, he wondered if the fire of hope they ignited could withstand the chill of their doubts. But then he recalled that he wasn't alone anymore. "Let us talk about those wounds," he offered, stepping forward, and let us find a way to heal them together. And there it was, the push he didn't know he needed, fuel for the fire that would ignite a stronger unity or reveal deeper divides within Maplewood. He took a breath, fully aware that tonight's path was paved not only with potential but the weight of history. The storm I was there, just out of reach, and Jackson knew the real challenge had just begun. What would he unveil in confronting the shadows that still lingered in the hearts of this community? The atmosphere in the room shifted palpably as Mrs. Patterson's words lingered in the air. The collective breath seemed to hold, anticipation building like static before a storm. Jackson felt the weight of every gaze upon him, the challenge of Mrs. Patterson's statement pressing down like a heavy cloak. He glanced around the circle, meeting the eyes of neighbors who had shared laughter and tears, victories and losses. Memories swirled in his mind, of times when the spirit of Maplewood had flourished, and he could almost feel those moments echo within the walls of the community center. But he also felt the shadows, the rifts caused by disagreements and misunderstandings, the fractures barely hidden beneath polite smiles. "You're right, Mrs. Patterson," Jackson said slowly, his voice firming with resolve. "It's easy to talk about hope without recognizing what we've all been through. What's important is that we face those wounds head-on." Mrs. Patterson nodded, her face softening with approval. "All I'm saying is it's not enough to want to heal. We need to understand the pain first. This town has lost so much trust." A few murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, and Jackson felt the tension shift just a bit. He was standing on the edge of something profound, a moment that could reshape everything. "Let us share," he proposed. "Let us open up about what's hurt us. It might not be easy, but if we're going to build a future, we need to rebuild that trust." His heart raced at the openness of his words, sending a challenging spark through the room. Slowly, Clyde, a man in his 50s who often kept to himself, stood up. "I lost my business during the economic downturn," he began, his voice shaking as he continued. "What hurt wasn't just the money. It was losing the support of my neighbors. I felt abandoned, like my struggle didn't matter." With each confession, each layer peeled back, the atmosphere transformed. Others opened up. Mary spoke of the loss of her home, Tom shared about family disputes that erupted over the town's future decisions, and Sarah bravely recounted the heartbreak of watching friends leave for greener pastures. Each story was a thread, weaving a tapestry of pain and resilience. Jackson felt the collective heart of Maplewood, its scars and its strength. Tears glistened in some eyes, laughter bubbled in others, but at the core was unity and vulnerability. By sharing their wounds, they were healing together. As the night rolled on, Jackson felt the warmth of connection reignite. They brainstormed solutions to hold community events to foster communication and trust, picnics, potlucks, workshops for locals to get to know each other beyond familiar faces. "Music brings people together," Sarah suggested. "What if we host a music night? Local talent could serenade us, sharing stories through song." Everyone seemed to nod in approval. Jackson couldn't help but smile, feeling a genuine excitement begin to spark. They were building something anew as a community, step by step. But even as the plans took shape, Jackson couldn't shake the feeling that there lingered a deeper history still unexplored. There were unresolved issues, unsaid things that weighed heavy in the room. What about the resentments hidden behind the smiles? As the meeting drew to a close, an unspoken question hung in the air. Could they truly heal the past, or would it rise up again to haunt them? Jackson looked around, determined faces surrounding him, and he couldn't help but wonder, was unity truly possible in a town with so much history? He stood at that crossroads of hope and doubt, ready to lead but unsure of the ground beneath him. And as he dismissed the group, he felt an electric thrill of the unknown. What fitful truths would emerge next? And more importantly, would they be ready to face them together? The next evening, as the sun began to dip below Maplewood's horizon, painting the sky in soft oranges and purples, Jackson found himself restless. The community center, now quiet, echoed with the weight of shared stories and lingering emotions. Over the past few days, the idea of the music night had consumed his thoughts, but the darker whispers of the community still nagged at him. He leaned against the wooden counter of his kitchen, staring at a list of names and ideas scribbled on a notepad. Each name evoked a memory, each idea a yearning for connection, but in the back of his mind, doubts festered. What if the music night only highlighted the cracks that still existed? What if the wounds didn't just ache but bled? He picked up his phone and scrolled through contacts until he landed on Sarah's name. Felt right to call her. She had stepped bravely into the conversation at the meeting, and he hoped her passion could spark some motivation in him as well. "Hey Sarah," he greeted when she picked up, trying to sound upbeat despite the weight in his chest. "Jackson, how are you?" she asked, her voice buoyant. "I'm okay, just thinking about the music night," he admitted. "What do you think we should do to keep it authentic?" "I'm worried it might end up being more of a showcase than a true gathering." There was a pause on the other end. "I share that concern," she finally said. "We need stories, real ones. Maybe we can ask people to share their music, but also the meanings behind it. Maybe even open the floor for a few words before the performances, make it a safe space." "Yeah," Jackson replied, nodding as if she could see him. "Like a storytelling session intertwined with music. That could really bring everyone together." "That's the goal, right?" she said. "And think about it, what if someone shared something truly powerful? We could inspire hope." His heart began to race at the thought. What if we even have a courage story segment where folks can share moments they felt brave in the face of adversity? "Now you're talking." That could be incredible. They bounced ideas back and forth, the synergy between them sparking hope. Jackson felt lighter with every suggestion, as if they were paving a path through darkness together. But just as he was starting to feel optimistic, a familiar shadow flickered in the back of his mind. "Sarah, do you think there's something more we should address? Issues that are still unspoken?" A silence filled the void, and he wished he could take the question back. Maybe she hesitated. Sometimes it's the unsaid things that can really weigh heavy on people. Could be impactful, but we need to approach it carefully. Not everyone might be ready to confront what's buried deep. "Yeah, that's fair." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I just don't want to ignore anything. If we're going to heal, we need to face everything, right?" "Absolutely." There was resolve in her voice. "But trust the process, Jackson. Let us see where the storytelling leads us. We might stumble upon something unexpected." After the call, Jackson felt infused with a renewed sense of purpose, almost daring to believe they could forge a true connection. As he set to work on defining the format for the music night, he sensed that change was brewing. But the deeper questions remained. Would the courage stories heal old scars or unearth resentments that had long lain dormant? As the night wore on, he couldn't shake the feeling that the upcoming event would force Maplewood to confront something monumental. He stepped out onto his porch, the cool breeze brushing against his skin, carrying hints of promise and uncertainty. What would come to light during their gathering? Would the truth bind them together or break them apart? With a heart full of questions, he gazed toward the horizon, wondering what awaited them all. The next day, a vague sense of excitement mingled with anxiety settled in Jackson's chest as he prepared himself for the planning meeting at the community center. He swept through the door, determination lighting his steps. The hum of laughter and chatter hit him, a comforting reminder that Maplewood thrived on connection. He spotted Sarah already deep in discussion with a few others, their faces animated as they brainstormed ideas. "Hey everyone," he called out, his voice rising above the chatter. They turned to him and smiles broke out. He felt warmth flooding back into him. Sarah waved him over, a spark of enthusiasm in her eyes. "Glad you made it," she said. "We were just talking about themes. We think it would be great to have a theme of resilience. What do you think?" "Resilience sounds perfect," Jackson exclaimed, his heart finally easing. "It's rooted in everything we've spoken about, the stories that define us, how we face challenges together. It could be a powerful touchstone for the night." As they continued to plan, Jackson scribbled notes as fast as he could. Sarah suggested adding a musical showcase alongside the storytelling segments, giving performers a chance to tell their stories through their songs. "What if we created a central theme for each segment?" he suggested, looking around the room. Like the courage segment could flow into stories of hope, then into songs reflecting that hope, right? "A beautiful arc," Sarah added, bouncing slightly on her toes. As discussions progressed, an unexpected urgency began to fill the air. The sense of community swelled, giving Jackson hope that they could spark something transformative. He felt what had once been a heavy weight start to lift, a connection with others who were just as passionate about this event. Later on, as they wrapped up their meeting, Jackson caught a glimpse of Mrs. Thompson, the elderly woman who lived a few blocks away, stirring her tea in the back corner. He remembered how her tired eyes always revealed a depth of wisdom. He wandered over, hoping she might contribute something. "Mrs. Thompson, I'd love to have you share a story at the music night," he said gently. "Your perspective could mean so much to everyone." Her face brightened for a moment, but then it clouded with uncertainty. "Oh dear, I don't know, I haven't shared much in a long time. What could I possibly say?" "Anything. Your story is your truth. We all carry experiences that shape us," he encouraged, noticing how she seemed to fiddle with her cup, hesitating. "You never know who might be listening and find it helpful." She stared into her cup, deep in thought. Finally, she breathed out slowly and looked up, a glimmer of vulnerability surfacing. "I've seen many changes over the years and lost so much. I wouldn't want to bring everyone down." "It wouldn't be bringing anyone down," Jackson reassured her softly. "It's about sharing, and leaving behind the burdens we've carried alone. There's strength in what you've faced." For a moment, an unspoken bond hung between them. He sensed that she stood at the precipice of something profound. "Okay," she said finally, a tremor of relief in her voice. "I will try." Feeling buoyed by her willingness, Jackson returned to the group, but the echo of Mrs. Thompson's hesitation lingered in his mind. What if her story unearthed emotions that many in Maplewood had kept hidden? As the planning wound down, that question took root in Jackson's heart, intertwining hope with worry. With things on the cusp of being organized for the big night, he couldn't shake the feeling that this gathering would be more than just an evening of music and stories. It would demand a reckoning from those who participated. He stepped outside again, the sun dipping beneath the horizon, painting the sky pink. A chill ran down his spine. Were they prepared for what might emerge? And with excitement and dread swirling in his chest, he breathed in deeply, anticipating the stories yet to unfold. Would the truths they uncovered bind them in solidarity or expose fractures that ran deeper than anyone dared to acknowledge? Jackson woke the next morning with the sun streaming through his window, a soft golden glow washing over him. He stretched, feeling invigorated yet anxious about the upcoming music night. What was supposed to be an ordinary evening now felt loaded with meaning. He grabbed his coffee, the aroma grounding him, and took a moment to reflect on the whispers of vulnerability and connection that filled the room during their planning session. As he made his way to the community center later that day, thoughts of Mrs. Thompson's tentative agreement replayed in his mind. What stories might she share? Would she really embrace the chance to open up? Would it bring comfort to others? Or would it open wounds best left untouched? When he arrived, the buzz in the community center was alive with energy. Volunteers were setting up chairs, arranging sound equipment, and hanging colorful decorations that breathed life into the once plain space. Jackson smiled at the sight. People were working side by side, united with anticipation and purpose. Sarah was at the front, overseeing the arrangements, her eyes lighting up when she spotted him. "Jackson, come help us with this banner. We need to make sure it's straight," she called enthusiastically. Together, they hung the banner that read "Night of Resilience." As they worked, Jackson felt a familiar rhythm of camaraderie and excitement building around him. "Do you think people will really share their stories?" Sarah asked, her tone serious as she stepped back to evaluate their handiwork. "I hope so," he replied, his voice reflecting his unease. "I think it's a big step and I just worry that some may struggle with it." Sarah nodded, her expression thoughtful. "It takes a lot of courage to share, especially when it means digging into painful memories. But think of the good that could come from it. You're giving them a chance to be heard." He liked her optimism, but deep down, Jackson still felt the weight of uncertainty hovering over him. What if the evening brought to light more sorrow than joy? The evening approached quickly. Families gathered, smiles painted on faces, but beneath that surface, Jackson felt the tension, the undercurrent of unspoken fears, memories, and truths. As the crowd settled, warming the room with their presence, Jackson felt an electric buzz of anticipation in the air. Once the program began, Sarah welcomed everyone, her voice steady yet passionate. Jackson watched her shine, her energy contagious, and slowly, the initial nerves amongst the attendees began to lift. One by one, storytellers stepped onto the small stage, sharing personal experiences filled with heartache, strength, and resilience. The stories flowed with a raw beauty, Just as Jackson imagined, moments of laughter mingled with tears, touching something deep within the crowd. Each account wove a tapestry of shared struggles, and he could sense the unifying weight of vulnerability settle over the room. Then came the moment when Mrs. Thompson stood up. He felt his breath hitch in his throat. Would she go through with it? As she approached the microphone, her frail figure seemed so small against its vastness. Yet, in that instant she was anything but small. "I've lost many in my life," she began, her voice shaky but growing firmer with each word. "Family, friends, dreams I once held dear. But I've also learned that sharing our pain can lighten the load." She paused, and the room held its breath. "Many of you have lived through your own storms, and you're not alone." Jackson's heart raced. He felt the waves of emotion ripple through the crowd, resonating with a shared history that no one had anticipated addressing. As she shared her story, the warmth of understanding wrapped around her words, binding the listeners in a quiet solidarity. After she finished, the audience erupted into applause. Tears glistened in the corners of many eyes, a reflection of the courage it took to listen, to feel, and to open oneself to another's journey. Jackson felt a surge of hope. Maybe this night would indeed create connections that transcended the immediate discomfort of opening old wounds. Suddenly, amid the applause, Jackson heard a soft sobbing behind him. He turned to see a young woman clutching her knee, her face wet with tears. He approached her with concern. "Are you okay?" She looked up, vulnerability in her gaze. I just remembered my own losses, and it's all so heavy." In that moment, Jackson knew they were all just a breath away from healing and understanding. But, as he looked back to the stage, uncertainty crept in again. Would they continue to embrace the truths that were surfacing? Or would fear push them back into silence? The echoes of that question mixed with the music, dancing through the room. Would this shared experience ultimately draw them closer together? Or would it unveil an even deeper rift within their community? As the music night unfolded, each performance morphed into a canvas splashed with colors of experience, some vibrant, some muted, but all woven together in a tapestry of resilience. Jackson stood amid the crowd, the waves of emotion crashing against him like ocean tides, each wave bringing a mix of hope and uncertainty. The music soared, melodies mingled with heartfelt stories, and for every tale that cut deep, there were others that lifted spirits high. Laughter spilled out during moments of joy, punctuating the air like fireworks bursting in the night. Yet beneath it all, there was an undercurrent of raw honesty. As the evening progressed, Jackson found himself awash in a sense of unity he had longed for. People were sharing their truths, things they had carried alone for so long. It was powerful. They were finally facing their pain, their history, and their losses. He felt the warmth beginning to fill the cracks in their community, a slow healing that started to stitch together the torn fabric of Maplewood. Then, as the evening approached its zenith, Sarah took to the stage. "Thank you all for being here tonight. Your courage to share is so inspiring. But let us not stop here. Let us carry this momentum forward. We need to keep talking. We need to build on this sense of connection." Jackson caught her eye. Her enthusiasm was infectious. Every person in the room shifted in their seats, smiles illuminating their faces, hearts beating with that familiar rhythm of community they had almost forgotten. Then a voice cut through the hum of the crowd. It was Clyde, the quiet man who had shared his business struggles earlier. "Can we make this a regular thing? A space where we can come together, share without fear, and heal?" "Absolutely," Sarah responded quickly, enthusiasm radiating. "This can become a monthly gathering, a way to create dialogue, not just for tonight but for our future." As ideas burst forth, each person riffed off the last. Plans formed. Musicians, artists, storytellers, an entire array of skills began to weave into a plan that felt solid and rooted in authenticity. Jackson felt a knot in his chest finally loosen. Hope surged through him like a flame igniting a darkened room. But just as he thought about addressing their next steps, a familiar elderly voice spoke up. It was Mrs. Thompson again. "If we are opening this space, let us ensure we also invite everyone, even those who've been hurt, who might feel left out or like outsiders." It was a pivotal moment. All eyes turned toward her, the gravity of her words weighing heavily. Many have wanted so much from this town but have felt cast aside due to past decisions. If we're to heal, we must embrace everyone. Jackson's heart raced. It was true. Maplewood had room for everyone, those who left, those who stayed, and those who still felt the remnants of distrust. Tonight they were out to rewrite the narrative. "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. That's a crucial point," Jackson acknowledged, stepping forward. He locked eyes with the room's pulse, the spirited crowd that had shared laughter and pain, vulnerability and laughter. "It's time we open our doors wide and welcome every voice. I believe we can create a space that truly represents all of us." Applause erupted once more, and Jackson felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. There was no more hesitation. The tide of change was not just a hope but a reality unfurling. They had a chance to rebuild their shared story, brick by hopeful brick. As the night drew to a close, they gathered for one final song. It was a local band, familiar chords floating through the air and rooting themselves in memories of childhood, this time folks humming along, voices rising as one, a beautiful harmony bouncing off the walls. Jackson felt tears prick his eyes. That deep, aching joy stemmed from unity, born from the willingness to lay bare their realities. Mabel stood nearby, tears streaming down her face, a radiant smile illuminating her wrinkled skin. He knew in that moment that they weren't just reclaiming their past. They were crafting a future that embraced every part of their community, including their collective scars. Stepping back, Jackson took a deep breath, his heart full of courage, compassion, love, and possibility, all entangled like threads in the fabric of their lives. With unwavering conviction, he whispered, "Together we rise." As the last notes of the night's melody lingered in the air, Jackson realized this was just the beginning. A powerful bond forged among them would propel their cherished Maplewood forward, and together they would become its heart. That truth pulsed with promises of a brighter tomorrow, driving them all to embrace the journey ahead. Now it was time to carry the momentum they had created. They needed to commit to the new lives formed among them, to the stories yet to be told, and to the connections that would continue to grow. He stood at that crossroads of past and future, feeling lighter, surrounded by the love of a community rekindled. The world around him burst with possibility. The evening closed, but it was just the opening act. And in that moment it felt like everything would be all right. Now is the time to take action. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Don't wait not even one more second to share your thoughts in the comments, your reactions and feelings about this incredible transformation matter. And if you believe in the power of community and resilience, leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this powerful journey. Together let us spark change.